All right, here's your homework sheet. The solutions, you can do your homework with me. Where's my, here's a pen. Okay, let's start. So these are complex fractions. Fractions within fractions. So if we have one fraction on top and one fraction underneath, we're going to multiply times the reciprocal. Let me make sure I do the reciprocal right. Then once you've done the reciprocal, you look to see what can simplify. So when I look here, I can see that 5 goes into 10 two times. 3 goes into 6, and 3 goes into 7. So 2 times 2 is 4, and 7 underneath. Now look at the variables. A to the 3 and a. So the a makes a to the 3a squared. B makes b squared of b. So you're done with your answer. 4a squared b over 7. Try again. Number 2. So start with times the reciprocal. Then look to see if there's something that is factorable. So sometimes we'll do it in one step, sometimes two. So look at 2x subtract 2, factor out the 2, and then recognize the 2's, or the x subtract 1's, eliminate. X makes the x squared an x, and 18 times 2 is 36, and we still have an x there. And in the denominator be a 1, or you can just write it as 36x. Again, I'm just going to factor right away. So 4c squared subtract 1 is the difference of squares. 2c plus 1, 2c subtract 1, times the reciprocal. So that's 9c squared over 2c plus 1. Match, strike out. So 3 goes into 9 3 times. C makes the c squared a c. So I'm left with 3c, 2c subtract 1, and the whole denominator is 1, so I don't need to write that down. Number 4, factor. So we have n subtract 2, n subtract 7, 4, n plus 7, so factor what you can, do the reciprocal, and then match. So n plus 7 and n subtract 7. That leaves me with n subtract 2 over 4. Again, the best way to do the homework is for you to practice first and then play the video. Or have me start it, and then once you feel you're confident, you can actually then finish the question. Alright, so again, I'm going to look to see. I'm going to factor and do the reciprocal at the same time. So first I factor out an 8x. And then it's a difference of squares. The reciprocal, I'm going to factor out a 5. So I have 3 subtract x, and then 2x. So there it is, the setup. So x plus 3, they strike out. X subtract 3 and 3 subtract x are opposite factors. X and 2 makes the 8 a 4. So everything is struck out on the bottom. So negative 1 times 5 times 4. Altogether, that's negative 20. Number 6, factoring. So I'm going to start with 2v, v plus 8. Now, 2, negative 5, and negative 7. So it's going to take a couple steps to do that. So I'm going to do that above here. So 2 times negative 7 is negative 14. And negative 5. So the two numbers are negative 7 and 2. So I'm going to do a substitution. I'm going to substitute in negative 7v plus 2v for negative 5, and then factor by grouping. So v, 2v take away 7, 1, 2v take away 7. So now I got it. So it's 2v subtract 7 and v plus 1. Now do the reciprocal. So I have 10. Now what I'm left with is v squared take away 1. Well, that's a difference of squares, so I can do that right away. Take out a 4. Now if I take a 4 out of each one, I'm left with 7 and 8. So what two numbers multiply to negative 8 and so on? So that's going to be plus 8 and negative 1. Now that it's completely factored, you can strike out. No, the 2v and the 2v subtract 7 do not. You can't separate the binomial in half and do that. 2 goes into 4 twice. 2 goes into 10 5. So I'm left with 5v on top and 2v subtract 7 in the denominator. All right, number 7. So for number 7, for me to do this, for me to do the reciprocal, we need to have common denominators here. So I'm going to multiply by x, top and bottom, and times 4, top and bottom. So what I'm left with is 4x is my denominator, but I'm going to do the reciprocal. And then x times x squared is x cubed, and subtract 16. So 4's divide out. X squared times x is x cubed, but don't make the mistake that the x cubes can simplify. So if it said x cubed subtract 16, they would, but I can't take half the binomial and decide. So only when things are multiplying can I divide them out. All right, 8. Common denominator. So 1 is going to be a minus b over a minus b. And then we're going to multiply times the reciprocal. So combine like terms here first, and then we'll go from there. A subtract a, done. So we have negative b over a subtract b. Notice the a subtract b's. Strike out negative b divided by 1 is what we're left with, so the answer is negative b. Turn the page. All right, number 9. Step 1, we need common denominators, so we're going to multiply top and bottom times 3 and top and bottom times p. So when I combine this together, I got 3 plus 2p over 3p, and then the reciprocal. So the p's strike out, so I'm left with 3 plus 2p over 3. Done. Number 10. So the numerator is fine, just write it over again. And we can go times the reciprocal. So this is q plus 1 and q plus 1. That's equal to 1. But now they're common denominators. Q take away q. So the common denominator is q plus 1. So that's going to be the numerator when you do the reciprocal. Q take away q, done. I have a 1 underneath. So strike out 5q divided by 1 leaves me just with 5q. Number 11. Again, anytime, press pause. Do the work, then press play. So again, I need common denominators on top. So I'm going to multiply by y. So I have 8 subtract 4y over y. Here, I need to multiply times y and times, that's it, just times y, top and bottom. So we have y then, the reciprocal, and 12y take away 24. All right, I'm going to factor out a 4. 2 minus y, duh. Factor out at 12, and then strike out. So y's, they divide out. Y subtract 2 and 2 subtract y are opposite factors, and 4 goes into 12 3 times. So all of that leaves me with negative a third. So we have negative 1 over 3 is the only thing that wasn't struck out. 12, common denominators. So I'm going to multiply this times s, this times r. So I have s plus r over sr. Here, I'm going to go s squared, and here r squared. So when I do the reciprocal, I have s squared r squared, and then I have s squared subtract r squared. Now, this is a difference of squares. Now we can divide out common factors. So this makes it just an s, this makes this just an r. So I have sr over s subtract r. Done. Number 13. Common denominators first. So make the numerator one fraction. So I'm going to multiply by 4. So I have k squared subtract 36 over 4. Here I'm going to multiply by 6. So when I combine it together, the reciprocal is going to be 6 over k subtract 6. Do a difference of squares. Match and divide out. Oops, this one's alive, not struck out. K plus 6. 2 goes into both evenly, so this one's still alive, so it's 3, k plus 6, and then 2. 14, common denominators. So m and 4. So I have m squared subtract 4 over 4m. Here, common needs a 2, needs an m. So the reciprocal would be 6m would be on top. 2 plus m would be on the bottom. Do the difference of squares. Match. So m plus 2 and 2 plus m are not opposites. They're exactly the same. M's cross out 4 and 6. 2 goes into both of them. So I'm left with 3. M subtract 2 over 2. 2 more. You want to try them yet? And then press play. So common denominators. So we have w plus 4 plus 2. That's w plus 6 over 4 times the reciprocal. Common denominators times 2 times w. So the denominators are the same. So the reciprocal would have a 2w on top. And then 6 plus w here. They match. 2 goes into 4 twice, and it leaves you with w over 2. All right, last one. So common denominators. So I'll do this one step at a time. The first one needs a 3, top and bottom. The second one needs a x plus 3, top and bottom. Here, we need a 3 top and bottom, so it's x squared subtract 9 over 3. Then we're going to write this with the reciprocal. So let's combine some things together here. So 6 subtract x subtract 3. So 6 subtract 3, so we have a negative x, and 6 subtract 3 is 3. The common denominator there is 3x plus 3 times the reciprocal, and that's a difference of squares. Recognize the opposite factor here. So that's negative 1. 3's are gone. So I'm left with negative 1. Or is it exactly the same? Negative x and positive 3. So negative x and positive 3, positive x and negative, they're opposites. So I get negative 1 over x plus 3 and x plus 3, so that's x plus 3 squared. Done. Just making double sure that those were opposite factors, which they are. Okay, Mr. G Math, over and out. Proud that you got to number 16. Good job doing your homework.